Biden gave a speech the other day in Philadelphia. Now, a lot of people recognize Philadelphia as kind of the birthplace of democracy, if you will. And it was going to be a pretty big speech. You know, they were making a big deal out of it, and nobody really knew exactly what he was going to say, but they suspected it was going to be something about the MAGA crowd and how extreme they've gotten. Well, guess what? That's exactly what it was. That's what his speech was all about. Trump supporters did not like that at all. Trumpists were very, very upset at his speech. And at the moment, that's pretty much all they're talking about. So I wanted to listen to his speech about Ultra MAGA, Biden's speech. I think it was September 1st when he gave it in Philadelphia. Let's listen to what he had to say. Just a couple of little excerpts and see what they're so upset about. Listen to this.
But as I stand here tonight, equality and democracy are under assault. We do ourselves no favor to pretend otherwise. We, the people, have burning inside of each of us the flame of liberty that was lit here at Independence Hall. A flame that lit our way through abolition, the Civil War, suffrage, the Great Depression, world wars, civil rights. That sacred flame still burns. Too much of what's happening in our country today is not normal. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic. Now, I want to be very clear.
Okay, so he's getting claps here, but here's the main point. He called out a wing of the Republican Party that is deeply, deeply extreme. He called them out as such, and people are absolutely melting down over it. Now, I completely agree with him on this. There is an extremist branch of the Republican Party, the Ultra MAGAs, if you will, who are off the rails into crazy town. No saving them at this point. They're just nuts. I mean, it's crazy. I cover cults for a living, and I have been for years. I cover this group because it has so many cult-like qualities, because it is so deeply extreme. They are effectively domestic terrorists, right? Keep listening to what he had to say, and then we're going to listen to some of the reactions to it.
Very clear up front. Not every Republican, not even the majority of Republicans are MAGA Republicans. Not every Republican embraces their extreme ideology.
See, a lot of MAGA Republicans would completely disagree with that characterization. Okay, so Biden pointed out that not even the majority of Republicans are MAGA Republicans. I agree with that. I agree with that assessment. In fact, I think I would say as high as 15%. 15 to 20% are hardcore MAGA wingnuts, okay? And the reason that I cite that number is based on some polls, and it's mostly just a guess, but it's an educated guess, so take it with a grain of salt. That's just the way that I see it. 15 to 20% of the country is MAGA Republicans, right? The Republican Party itself, though, here's the problem. It is hinged to the MAGA movement and vice versa. They have no way to get around this. Regular Republicans can't win elections without pandering to Donald Trump a little bit. Not because he controls the party entirely, but because he controls just enough of it that there's a good chance that they're not going to win unless they let out some election conspiracy theories or whatever, right? And that's a good thing and it's a bad thing for us. It's good because the party is going to tear itself in half eventually. This is an inevitability. The party is going to tear itself in two, period. But it's a bad thing because in the process of tearing itself in half, it's going to radicalize more and more and more people as time goes on. So there are upsides and downsides to this. Keep listening to what Biden has to say here.
I know, because I've been able to work with these mainstream Republicans. And now, America must choose to move forward or to move backwards. To build a future or obsess about the past, to be a nation of hope and unity and optimism, or a nation of fear, division, and of darkness. MAGA Republicans have made their choice. They embrace anger. They thrive on chaos. They live not in the light of truth, but in the shadow of lies. But together, Together we can choose a different path.
You know, I couldn't have possibly said it better myself. I completely agree with his whole assessment here. But, you know, when he was giving this speech, if he's going to give a speech, he's going to let the press know beforehand so that they can tune in. CBS, NBC, CNN, whoever else, they'll know that he's about to hold it, and they will schedule that in, right? Usually. But presidents intentionally almost never hold speeches during prime time. So, I don't know, 4 to 8 p.m. they won't usually hold speeches because they know that's like the highest earning time, and if it's not something really, really important and relevant, then they're not going to try to get the news stations to air it, right? But this speech was during prime time. They only ever do this, hold a speech during prime time, if it's something of grave importance. The January 6th hearings were held during prime time. I think just the first and maybe the second one. I'm not sure how many. It's very rare that they do this, but guess what? CBS and NBC specifically, I think, instead of airing the president's speech, were playing reruns of like Law and Order SVU and stuff. Seriously. Instead of airing the president's speech on this extremely important subject, they were playing reruns. Some of the news stations don't take this problem as seriously as they should, in my opinion. Anyway, this next clip I wanted to play displays a stark difference between the extremism on the right and the Enlightenment values that the left is espousing at this moment. Listen to what happens, okay? Biden is up here giving this speech, and a heckler comes out. Start yelling, F Joe Biden or something like that. Listen to how Joe Biden responds to this heckler.
Look, our democracy isn't perfect. It always has been. Notwithstanding those folks you hear on the other side there.
He's specifically addressing the guy yelling F Joe Biden. You can't hear it because it's not loud enough over the microphones or whatever, but that's what was happening.
They're entitled to be outrageous. This is a democracy.
That's a stark difference, right? It's a completely different perspective from what Trump held. When hecklers came out at a Trump rally and started saying F Trump or whatever, he said he would pay the legal fees of anybody who attacked them. Seriously. Completely different situation. Completely different approach.
But history and common sense. Good manners is nothing they've ever suffered from.
You see, it's a difference between authoritarianism and freedom. This is a perfect example of Biden showing respect for freedom. Trump was exhibiting authoritarian qualities by encouraging people to attack the protesters at his rallies. I mean, seriously look at the difference between the two of them and tell me that you wouldn't vote for Biden over Trump again. Seriously. Well, MAGA Republicans are not happy about this at all. This is absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, a full-blown cult. I say that with complete confidence at this point. This is Alexandria Lane. I hadn't heard of her before, but she's like a Trump supporter as far as I know. Listen to what she had to say about Biden's speech. This is just like the next day, or maybe even the same day when this came out.
I think we need Jesus up in this building because we've got Satan making speeches on TV. What was that? Hitler come back to life? I'm actually horrified to see the sitting president demonize millions of Americans for not agreeing with him, all while having the situational awareness of a toddler.
Okay, so she calls Biden Hitler. Here's the interesting thing about this, okay? Something that I've noticed with the right is when they're accused of something or when they know they have an image problem, they'll accuse the other side. They'll accuse their enemy of doing that thing, right? Or they will embrace it. Like Greg Locke, for example, when people accuse him of having like an us versus them mentality or whatever, he will embrace it. He'll say, yeah, it is us versus them. It is us versus them. I mean, he used those words, seriously. I'm quoting him here. With this person, Alexandria Lane, and many others, this is the strategy on the right. When the right is accused of something, they just turn it around. They flip it on the other person. So they were very obviously accused of being authoritarians, extremists, fascists in this Biden speech. So in response, they come out and accuse the left and or Biden of being authoritarian extremists. See how this works? When you're accused of something, just accuse the other person of it. In fact, if you can preempt the accusation, if you can get the accusation in before they have the chance to call you a fascist, if you can call them one first, so much the better. That's the strategy on the right. When you're dealing with like social media management or image management or whatever, like press release secretaries and people like that, there's such a thing as going on the offense and being on the defense. So, for example, Biden forgives a bunch of student loans recently, and the right is absolutely losing their minds over it, right? So what does Biden do? Biden is on the defensive because the right is accusing him of things, of being, a fascist who gives people free money or whatever else. What does Biden do? He goes out there, well, the Biden White House anyways, I don't know if Biden did it. He goes out there on Twitter and he grabs clips of every single person who says, student loan forgiveness is wrong, you shouldn't forgive people student loans, blah, blah, blah. And he says, for example, Marjorie Taylor Greene started saying you shouldn't forgive people student loans. Biden says Marjorie Taylor Greene got like $150,000 in PPP loans forgiven. And they just did this for like an hour and a half, just going down a list of various talk show hosts who were slamming Biden for forgiving student loans, and they were listing the PPP loans that these people had forgiven. He's dealing with being on the defense by going on the offense. That is an absolutely fantastic way to do it, right? But think about it in terms of what the ultra MAGA people are doing right now. They are going on the offense in their own defense, the same way that Biden did with the student loan stuff. Biden called them fascists. They're going to come out here and call him a fascist. They're going to pretend that he's Hitler. Literally. Oh, seriously, they're calling him Hitler.
Hitler come back to life? I'm actually horrified to see the sitting president demonize millions of Americans for not agreeing with him, all while having the situational awareness of a toddler.
Okay, nobody demonized the MAGA crowd for disagreeing with him. Did she miss the part where he said that's what democracy's about when he's getting heckled? Did she miss the part where he said, you're free to disagree with me? That's democracy? No, she's completely ignoring that part because she wants to paint him as what he accused them of being. That's the problem here. It's about the fact that they're refusing to accept election results, and they're actively trying to destroy the democracy that we're in and the freedom of speech and people's rights. Actively trying to sabotage the system because they're angry about it. Because they're angry that it exists in its current form.
Having the situational awareness of a toddler. Labeling people extremists for what?
For being extremists. That's why. Because you're extremists.
Thinking freely, wanting secure borders, wanting to protect children, protect our constitutional rights, have a strong economy.
No, if those were the things that they were doing, they wouldn't be considered extremists. See, that's the thing. Even if they weren't doing those things, but pretending to. That's what the Republican Party does. They pretend to be about the economy when, in reality, the economy performs significantly better under Democrats. They pretend to be in favor of children and the border and constitutional rights and all that stuff. Whatever. They can pretend that if they want. That's perfectly fine. Hell, they can pretend that they're for those things and not be for them at all. That's fine. But when they start eroding democracy, claiming that elections were fake or whatever else, that's when we have a problem. When they're actively encouraging extremism and violence, that's when we've got a problem. I forget what the number is, like 50% of the country or something at this point believes that there will be a civil war in the United States in the next 10 years or something like that. It was a new study just came out about it. That's a problem. That's a problem. That's what we're complaining about right now.
That was a call to hate and violence more than anything Trump ever said on January 6th, and I can't decide if the decision to have a blood red background for that speech was a massive screw-up by a tone-deaf White House or a deliberate effort to utilize Nazi imagery to terrorize Americans. Biden is supposed to be representing all Americans, regardless of political affiliation.
Well, he does represent all Americans, regardless of political affiliation. He's the president. He represents them whether they like that or not. Just, they're not going to accept that fact. It's the problem. They believe that he's illegitimate. That's the whole issue here. They believe that he wasn't elected fairly when he, in fact, was elected fairly. There was another thing she said here. That was a call to hate and violence more than anything Trump ever said on January 6th. Once again, no, it wasn't. It wasn't a call to hate or violence, what Biden said or did. Whatever your enemy accuses you of, you accuse them back. Or ideally, you accuse them first. That's what it's all about.
Affiliation. Calling millions of us extremists and a threat to the country is further dividing our already divided country. Surprised he didn't throw in a Hail Satan to bring it all together. I don't know. I think dark times are certainly ahead whenever his last brain cell floats away. So if me being a free thinker makes me an extremist, then so be it.
That doesn't make you an extremist, being a free thinker. Being a Trump follower who is obsessed with starting a civil war at any cost, that's what makes you an extremist. I can't believe I even have to say this. Before we continue, I just wanted to mention something. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, you can support me in a few ways. First, there's Patreon. That's probably the best way. But if you want to get something back for your support, you can check out my Teespring. Or you can check out my Telltale Unfiltered channel. I go through long-form, unhinged sermons from all kinds of people, from Hank Kunneman to Greg Locke to Jehovah's Witnesses. So give it a look. Links are in the description. Okay, now back to the video. There was a Trump rally held the very next day in Pennsylvania. I don't know if that was intentional. I don't know who planned it first. Was it Trump or was it Biden who planned their event first in that area? Who knows? I don't know. Maybe it was total coincidence that Biden and Trump both held an event in the same state within like a day of each other. Who knows? But yeah, it went absolutely sideways, to say the least. Listen to this one. This is just like the next day. Marjorie Taylor Greene is talking about Biden's speech there.
Happen to any American, but this is who the Democrats are, Brian. They're using their position of power, and they have declared war on all of us because Joe Biden basically said in his speech that we're the enemies of the state, and he's calling us extremists.
He did not say that Republicans are the enemy of the state. In fact, he didn't even say that MAGA people are the enemy of the state. He said they're extremists, or they're turning into extremists, or they do extreme things. Has nothing to do with being an enemy of the state. It has to do with the fact that they're denying election results and actively trying to start a civil war.
And so that's a dog whistle for violence against MAGA Republicans, and it is a continued dog whistle of violence against me.
Against her personally? Okay. No, it's not. It's not a dog whistle. It was not calling for violence. It wasn't calling for arrests or any of that stuff. They have to be persecuted, and they have to accuse the other side of the things that they are doing. This is an intentional strategy that they set out to do. You want to get sad? Let's get sad. Before the Trump rally, there were some kids hanging out, camping out there, waiting for the rally to start, apparently. Listen to this. This is a couple of kids going on camera to talk about why they love Donald Trump.
Why are you a Trump supporter?
Because I've realized that he's the only person that actually did something in this world, and he helps us a lot.
Yeah. And
you want to elaborate on that? You want to expand that out at all for me? Build out on that whole idea? Because it currently makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. He's the only one who does anything in this world? Is that what she said? She's old enough to know better at this point, but here's the really sad part about it. She was obviously groomed to be an extremist at this point, right? Like, there's somebody in her life that has been pushing her to where she is right now. I cannot imagine a kid coming to these conclusions about Donald Trump being the greatest person alive on their own, just in a vacuum. It's really sad, dude.
And you probably have good parents. What about you, Liberty? Coolest name. Shout out to your dad back there. I love that.
Yeah.
So oh my goodness,
It's okay. Take your time.
I respect Donald Trump because he's probably the best president I've ever actually seen, and also he's actually helped. I actually got to see my family. Now I can't because of all the gas prices. I can't even go and see my family that are far away now.
Yeah.
Wow, dude. That is so deeply sad. She couldn't see her family because gas prices were so high. You see how they're trained? They train people, not just kids, but like anybody. They train their followers. I'm talking the leaders of the movement. Congressmen, pastors like Kent Christmas and Johnny Enlow and all of these other people. They train their parishioners and their constituents or whatever with talking points like this. They train them to go with the most consequential culture war issue in that moment. And in that moment, it was gas prices. So that's all the parents probably talk about. Gas prices, gas prices, gas prices. Because that is the most consequential culture war issue. And the kid picked up on that. Or they were straight up told to talk about how bad gas prices are. It's really sad, dude. Really sad. Despite the fact that gas prices have absolutely nothing to do with the president or vice versa. First of all, the president can do very little to change gas prices. A little bit. They can do a gas tax holiday, and they can release oil from the strategic reserve. And that would affect gas prices by 25 to 50 cents, maybe $1. Absolute, just mind-blowing maximum number. No way it's more than $1. But, you know, everything is Joe Biden's fault. Everything. And when Trump was in office, nothing was Trump's fault. Everything was the evil Democrats' fault. See how this works? Check this dude out. This guy is in my city, New York City, and he's about to lose his mind over Joe Biden. Listen to this.
Wall action here.
Finish the wall. Trump 24. Save America. Wow.
Is there something you have to do with yesterday's speech by Biden?
Absolutely. I don't remember Obama or any other president telling me directly to me, the ultra MAGA, that he doesn't like me. You know,
That's not what Biden said. He didn't say he doesn't like you. He says that you're an extremist. And based on the fact that you even own a shirt and a hat, matching outfit, that screams, I love Donald Trump more than anything in the entire world, I'd be willing to bet Biden is correct on that assumption.
No, I'm not a criminal. I'm just, you know, a New Yorker, having fun, doing what I do. But for him to actually...
No, he's not. He's not. That's the thing. That's the problem here. You aren't just a New Yorker doing your thing, doing what you do. Your whole personality is based around Donald Trump. If your whole personality wasn't based on Trump, if you didn't personally identify as an extremist movement, Ultra MAGA, nobody would care. You could do your thing. You could be a New Yorker and do what you do. Nobody cares. You don't have to come out and scream, I'm an Ultra MAGA person, from the hilltops everywhere you go. This dude is completely disconnected from reality.
And say that we're some kind of segmented group of second, I guess you call it a second-class citizen. So yeah, it's just, I would say the same thing back to him that he said to me yesterday. He's the bad guy, not me.
And that really wraps up their whole strategy here, doesn't it? All you have to do is accuse the other person of what they've just accused you of doing. Biden just said Ultra MAGA is an extremist wing of the Republican Party, and people are losing their minds over it. They're really, really upset. So their strategy is to accuse the Democrats or accuse the left of being extreme. No, you are. That's it. No, you. It's a propaganda technique, and it's working. Really, really sad stuff. Something interesting about this guy, though. Check this out. This is another video that he was apparently in. Listen to this one.
White power! You know, I've been banned off of social...
Oh, yeah. Maybe don't shout that out when cameras are around next time. Now, to be fair, I don't know what the context was here. Sometimes people yell things like that to be facetious because people call them white supremacists and they don't feel like they are white supremacists. So they will facetiously pretend to be nutcases even though they know that they're not nutcases. So he may not actually believe in that. He may not actually be like a white supremacist in his mind, like consciously or whatever. And he may be making fun of the fact that people call him that. But you know what? Whether he consciously believes in white supremacist ideologies, whether he believes in that stuff or not, he's supporting systems that perpetuate it. So you don't get a free pass on this, man. I'm sorry. So that was people's reaction to Joe Biden's speech, his recent speech, about the fact that the MAGA movement is an extremist movement. They are not happy about it. Is the U.S. going to overcome the MAGA threat eventually? Are we going to come to a point where people can step away from this movement? Like when Donald Trump passes away in 10, 15, 20 years, are people going to come back to reality? Or is this going to be on our backs as a country until the end of time? Like, this is very obviously formed into a full-blown cult. Not just a cult, but a religious cult. Okay? They don't have to be religious necessarily. This one is. Are we stuck with it? Let me know what you think in the comments or on Twitter at Telltale Atheist. The fact that such a high percentage of Americans are attracted to such immature emotional strategies really points to how emotionally stunted the population is, and it makes me wonder why. an intentional thing. It's intentional. It's not just emotionally stunted, it's also educationally stunted. That is also intentional. Republicans have been eroding the public education system for a long, long time now. Years and years and years, decades maybe. And they've really picked it up in recent years, doing everything that they can to destroy the public education system. And they seem to be succeeding a little bit. Pretty unfortunate. There was a woman who wrote a letter to the school board in her district recently, trying to get a teacher fired, a second grade teacher, for teaching kids about pronouns. Not asking them for their pronouns, not teaching them about transgenderism. I mean, teaching them what a pronoun is. Second grade. That's when pronouns are taught. I mean, people realize pronouns are a part of the English language, right? The word I is a pronoun. The word we, you, us, they're pronouns. It's not just like left-wing, trans people or whatever else that are talking about pronouns. They're literally a part of the English language. I'm not really sure they realize that. Seriously. Woman is trying to get a teacher fired from her job for teaching the kids what a pronoun is. That's where we're at. They're trying to destroy the public education system right now.